Wow, Dale just made it with his gear.
Did I? Am I on?
Oh yeah, it's totally working.
All right. Woohoo!
Glad I could completely screw up sound check and pre.
Yeah, so here's like the alternate Dale is over here. There's this Dale.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That's the non-professional Dale, and then you've got the professional Dale in the upper right-hand corner.
Yeah.
Nice. Good job,
Hey, everybody.
Dale.
I'm glad to know that there's a professional Dale at all. That's nice.
But if you
might
actually
come up a tiny little bit, Dale.
Yeah, come up a tiny little bit volume-wise.
Okay. Sorry.
So for those of you just joining us, Dale's stuff wasn't working until all of a sudden we were on the air and it was working. So how about that? Welcome everybody.
Go ahead.
Yeah, keep actually turn up well. Say something.
Okay.
Jen?
Check. Hello.
Check. One,
you can still come up, Dale.
1, 2, 3.
Okay. Check. Test. Check.
More.
P.
I disabled the audio processing in this software. Is that correct thing to do?
Yeah.
Okay. Check.
Yeah.
Test. Check. Test. Hello.
It's not doing anything.
Make sure. Huh?
It's not doing anything, but that's all right. I can.
It never does.
Can you come way up?
Yeah. How's this?
Crank
There you go.
There we go.
Yeah.
Awesome.
All right. It's a professional operation, everybody.
Yeah.
This is Outside the Inn. We are the Travis Larson Band. This is our weekly live chat Q&A hang. It's been several weeks since we've had a friend on with us. We've had a few unannounced friends. We had.
They're all friends, man.
Well, they're all friends, but we haven't had one in of a while. It's just been
No,
us.
we just had Mark Storm
3 weeks ago.
Oh. Okay. I guess I'm losing time in this pod.
So tonight we are super stoked, and we should probably just get right into this because I don't want to waste any time hanging out with this guy. We spend most of our conversations with this guy. And by the way, we've had many conversations and many months on the road since 2013. And most conversations involve where are we going to have dinner? What time is sound check? Why is Guthrie's rig buzzing again? And so, anyway, without further ado, one of the finest, most entertaining, and craziest drummers I've ever seen, live or otherwise. This is our friend here, Marco Minnemann. Let's say hi to Marco. Yay!
Hi.
Good to see you, man.
Good to see you guys. What's happening?
It's been so almost like exactly a year ago. We would have been doing this like in a green room somewhere, right?
That is absolutely true. We started actually the You Know What tour with you guys actually, and we both actually of us, bands traveled through North America, Canada, and Mexico, right?
Yeah, and that's the
fun.
In some regard, we've done every North American Aristocrats tour. The first early ones were experimental, and so we did the first dates. I just looked today, and I think the first dates we did was January 2013, and the only things before that were you guys did like some kind of test shows up in San Francisco at Biscuits and Blues,
right?
And I've got pictures of Jen and I with you guys at that show too, which was. So it's like a lot of history with these two bands, right?
That's true, man. Really, 7 years. The first time we played together was 2013. In that period of time, the Beatles formed, did groundbreaking albums, and broke up.
Right. Oh my God.
So for those people out there, if there's any TLB fans that have not seen Marco, I'll just give my first experience was at Biscuits and Blues. The first time we went to see you guys after the initial jam where you formed, which was at the Bass Bash.
That's right. Oh, you were there, huh? At the Bass Bash?
Yeah, but we were actually eating dinner. We didn't realize that was going on.
Oops.
Here's what really happened. That happened, and then Brian came out with his then wife and had dinner with us and told us how he had just done this thing.
Yeah.
And how we just had this conversation. And we're like, we should be a band. We should be a band, and he was all excited about it.
Oh yeah.
And then coincidentally, when you guys were playing in San Francisco, I think the first time, Rush was playing the next night in Concord. So of course, Jennifer and I had every reason in the world to already be up there. And
yeah.
And so we went and hung out and saw you guys and Rush 2 nights in a row.
Yeah. Oh,
and then
wow.
we just started
trios, right? All these trios, where do they come from, right?
right. So, but the very first time I saw you live, I will say, was that show at Biscuits and Blues, and it was just a tiny little club show, and I have never been that entertained by somebody sitting right in front of them. I mean, you were like such a just crazy, bombastic, like, you know, this bundle of positive, like, just music ridiculousness pouring onto the stage. Fire, yes.
Oh my gosh. Well, you know, the rest is kind of, as you know, being on tour, the rest is pretty dull and annoying. So, you know, the only time you have really fun is on stage, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. So I'm not going to dive into like all my questions at once. And actually, Marco, do you happen to have a light that you could turn on by any chance?
You know what? Do I have a light that I can turn on? I tell you what, you know, because I thought it might. Hang on, I have light behind me. Hang on, I'll be back in a second.
Yeah, no worries.
Here we are.
As the sun starts to go down, it'll probably get better, or it'll get worse. We're not sure.
Let's see if let there be lights.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's lights. Oh, that's
there you go.
Much, isn't it? Hang on.
Oh, now you look like Jesus.
Yes.
I know. I got the halo going. Isn't it? It's my new thing. Hang on.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay, works a little better.
Drummer Jesus.
I know.
I have one too.
I can turn water into whiskey. Let's see. No, okay.
Thinking about very quickly.
You can turn a per diem into whiskey.
Yeah, I'm celebrating our talk with Marco tonight by having.
Are you serious?
Some of the Glenfiddich.
Nice.
21.
I don't know if you can see that.
Ooh, it's 21. It's even old enough to drink itself, isn't it?
Yes. So here's to you, Marco.
Okay, I'm prepared as well, but this one is almost empty. But it's Ben Romick or whatever it's called. So I'm gonna drink with you, Jen.
Nice.
Anyone else wants to join in for a drink?
Well, it's just like the road. You guys are drinking, and Dale has a cup where he's pretending not to drink, but is drinking, and I'm just plain old not drinking.
There you go.
I have a bourbon-aged stout, so that's a little bit.
There you go.
It's actually apple juice, 18-year-old apple juice.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Kidding. Yeah. I made that joke before on drum wheel. So here we go.
Right.
So before we get into all the conversations that we never have time to have, how are you doing with the whole lockdown at home thing? I mean, I know you're keeping busy in your home studio and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, well, you know, it's interesting because we're on the road so much that actually any break is kind of welcome. And so I remember, like, you know, when the tour stopped in early March, we were fortunate enough to almost play every show. I think we only missed 2 shows in Italy, and then we continued and finished up from Russia and then went to Ireland and the UK. And then I had a few clinics and then went home. And then I thought, like, okay, this is kind of cool. And I would have done the same thing as I would have done anyhow, you know, because our next tour was planned in July. And that would have been Asia, Southeast Asia, and then Latin America. Okay. Well, guess what? We're at home and having the show. So that actually hints that we're right. Tour. But the thing is, yeah, it's itching a little bit. You know, I kind of go like, yeah, shit, you know, I do want to go out and play again. But on the other hand, I got, you know, my home studio here, as you guys do. And so I get a lot of recordings in doing records, and the lake is here and all this kind of stuff on the mountain. So I'm going to take trips sometimes. And I'm a little bit out in the sticks here. So I don't really feel this whole COVID panic thing, you know. Because there's a lot of space, and I'm glad I'm not feeling it because it would drive me crazy after a while, you know. So I don't know what it's like to be in Los Angeles because I probably wouldn't go out. Yeah, so I'm kind of hanging in there, doing my stuff. I'm actually quite happy, to be very honest. But here's the thing, and yesterday, strangely enough, I played my first show again since March.
Oh, wow.
And I mean, show is kind of a little bit over-exaggerated. Right. I was going to like some reclusive wineries, like you know, with a lot of distancing and totally out in the sticks, and there was a band playing, and they recognized me, those guys, and they asked me if I want to sit in with them and play. So I went on stage and played rock and roll from the
cool.
Nice.
And it's already up on YouTube, I guess, or on social media, Facebook or so. But it's fun, and Instagram and whatever. They posted it instantly. But it was really cool. And actually, I thought, like, oh yeah, I know how that feels.
Yeah, right.
Remember that? Yeah.
Yeah, there's
Marco,
go ahead.
No. I was gonna say during the first few weeks of this, Marco, there was a lot of conversations among artists where everybody felt a little mixed about how they have time to create, but as everybody was taking it in, a lot of people were feeling like, I'm not sure if I'm in that space. Did you sort of go through that in the early stage of this?
No, not at all. Look, the thing is, like, you guys know me, and I always have my music studio with me, my portable studio. I always write.
Yeah.
So, no, I felt actually pretty, much like doing the things that I always do. The only thing that kind of, bothered me after a while was like that you could see, unfortunately, a little bit, not a detour from the topic, but to kind of stretch it out a little further, is now you feel how people start losing money, like especially in the music industry, how everybody first of all was like taking it in, going like, hey, okay, this is kind of cool and deal with it. And all of a sudden you can see like studio jobs are getting more scarce, and then, basically people need to kind of, somehow make sure when to put their albums out and consider when and how there is going to be a tour. So these are kind of things I can witness, and which I don't want to know how it is for people right now who are dependent on local gigs, for example, or playing in Las Vegas or something, those shows, that must be a huge loss, right?
Right.
So I don't know, but for me personally right now, I'm kind of cool here. I'm having a good time, and hopefully the world is going to get rid of this virus soon.
Yeah. One of the first things we did was dive into how to get this studio going for Dale, for instance, so he could teach remotely, and he didn't lose a student at all while he was off the road because
great.
Technology, thank God, right?
No, not it. Yeah. How are you guys all holding up? Like each of you guys, how are you doing?
It's just a phenomenon that I will say all my friends seem to have, from the biggest to the smallest size artist, is we all went into this thing thinking, okay, now we finally have the time to get really creative, but all of a sudden you kind of lost a little bit of motivation because you're kind of looking at it going, I don't have a specific window where I'm saying, this is when I'm going to be on stage. I have to do this for that,
Yeah.
So that's been a little weird. I don't know, Jen?
I think aside from just having a deadline, as it were, the universal energies for me have just been really kind of heavy and difficult. So inspiration has been a little hard to come by when it seems a little hopeless and stuff. But I mean, I think everyone that I've talked to is figuring out their ways of getting beyond that and, finding the hope and inspiration that they need to create. So
you have to. That's the only thing that keeps, driving the engine, I guess, and then later on, see, for example, what we're doing here with, I'm doing this new band with Randy McStein together.
Yeah.
Very
Congratulations on the new record, by the way.
Thank you.
Came out in July. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. It came out in July, and I think it came out great. It sounds really good, and we have like pretty strong material together, I believe. And it is like, that was like, just like such a, how do you say, like, such a positive energy, coming our way there and kind of creating. But you definitely, so what we're doing the next album already, which is coming out in a few months. So that we're working basically towards having a full-on set, so that we can actually have 2 full albums, and then going on tour in 2021 with the new material. So this is actually sort of kind of a glimpse of a ray of light or something,
right,
or whatever you may call it, But yeah, it's tough, making those albums and basically kind of breaking even, and then making the next one from that album to then kind of plan ahead, for the future, how that goes, So that is obviously like a little bit like, I'm kind of making as much money doing 2 studio jobs as kind of what I was getting back, from the whole record, Right. So consider that, but you leave something. Indeed, what you just said earlier, also, I think creativity is like very important. I guess, you know, whatever you do, you leave it behind in the universe. It doesn't go away. It will be part of history, and that's the beauty of it. So keep working, everyone. And
I know. Pull it out of yourself somehow, right?
Keep creating, you know,
Yeah.
So knowing, you know, you talked about the studio that we all know you always dragged around on the road so that you could work in hotel rooms and stuff.
Yeah.
When you're composing, and people that don't know, Marco kind of plays everything.
Yeah.
And when he records, you know, you play pretty much all the instruments on some of your material, correct?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you know, it's a good way of, well, cheating yourself actually through as well. When I play bass guitar or the guitar, I kind of, you know, what I do is like I come up with the parts, and as you know probably yourself, it's like, you know, the best way you can play is like, you know, playing your own stuff you composed. Obviously that goes down really easy, you know, and so I do this really part by part, you know. I kind of, you know, hear part A, unless it's kind of tight, and then the next one, and then I kind of, you know, fumble through a solo until it's good.
So when you're on the road, for instance, I mean, my first question was kind of, what instrument do you start on when you're writing? And then when you're on the road, do you program drum parts, which would be for people odd to hear maybe, but obviously you don't have a drum set in your hotel rooms. So
not necessarily, no. But the thing is, usually I start songs from either way, the piano or the guitar. So I kind of, you know, just fiddle around a bit, you know, and kind of find actually a cool riff that I like, right? And then I kind of sing something along, and I go like, ooh, this is catchy. And then some words kind of established, and you go like, yep, that kind of sets the right mood. And then I kind of make a song out of it, right? And sometimes it also happens that I kind of just sit behind a drum set, and I have this cool groove that comes along. I thought like, ooh, cool, I can hear a bass line to that or so, right? And then you start, you know, maybe even from the bass or the drums. So, you know, it kind of happens either or. And yeah, with the drum set, sometimes I program, you know, things just sporadically to then replace it anyways, you know. But sometimes, you know, if I have when I have a guitar riff that is very solid, and I know already what I want to hear on the drums, I literally just play the guitar to the click track, and then I put the drums later onto it.
Wow.
So either or.
Yeah. I tend to back in the old days, I would basically just play to a click track, and now, you know, I've gotten more into MIDI drums on the last two albums, so I can get at least an approximation of where I want to hear the one. That makes Dale's job easier sometimes, because he always, no fail, if I just give him a click track, he'll find the one somewhere else, you know.
The one is totally overrated. Who needs the one?
You're right.
Right.
I have a really funny story about it. An old friend of mine, great bass player from a band called Passport, you know, he used to be in the Wolfgang Schmidt. He told me, and he's a very solid and, you know, bass player who always likes good timing. And he told me that funny story where he was jamming or playing with this free jazz drummer, and that didn't go well at all. He says like he was totally trying to lock, and the drummer wasn't even looking at him. He was kind of, hey, great time and whatnot. And then Wolfgang got kind of angry, and he's usually a very sweet guy, and he kind of looks at him and goes like, hey, and the guy didn't hear him. He was still playing, he was still doing this. And then he goes again, he goes closer to the drum set and says like, hey, and he's like, whoa, all shocked. He goes like, what? And he goes like, where's the one? And the drummer says, man, it's in the air, man. It's in the There you go.
I got to remember that. It's in the air, man.
So if that happens, either or, you know, it's kind of either way, it's in the air and it's jazz, you know. So.
Right.
You're right, exactly. So as far as well, I don't know. Do you guys have a question?
There's a few comments. Werner, I don't know if I could pronounce these. He specifically asked, "Who's the man?" Okay, I guess we have to explain the who's the man.
I'll explain the who's the man to Marco, and then
okay.
So we do a thing every week called Who's the Man. By the way, this is the 25th episode, so whatever anniversary that is.
Yeah, okay.
We had to get Marco for the silver episode or the gold episode or whatever it is.
Wow.
Anyway, so who's the man is something that started when we were in our van on the road. By the way, do you feel a little bit like Jen should be in charge tonight after the last tour? Like she was in your van, you know, she was in charge, right?
Absolutely. Oh my gosh, yeah, that's right.
So who's the man is one of those things like if you have a discussion, like you say, David Lee Roth or Sammy Hagar, or
I love that. I love
those kinds of things. Okay, so who's the man? So Jen just got who's the man from, it sounds like
Werner, but I'm not sure I'm going to get the pronunciation right. So he says, here's a who's the man that only Germans will get: Udo Lindenberg or Herbert Grönemeyer.
Udo Lindenberg.
Okay.
And we don't have any follow-up questions to ask because we don't know that.
For one of the reasons, first of all, I played with Udo. And he's one of the oldest, or not oldest, I wouldn't, oh my God, that sounds wrong. He's one of the most established and first rock musicians, actually, in Germany. He actually invented German rock music. Like, he was the first one singing rock music in German language. That's also how it was advertised when he came out. And he's a great artist. And I had tons of fun with this guy on the road. Very deep lyrics. And I can tell actually quite a funny Udo Lindenberg story. Do we have time for this shit? Can I tell Udo?
Oh yeah, that's what we're doing.
Yeah.
So actually a very, very deep story. So Udo, and this is now where I have to go from German to English translation forth and back, but just so you get how deep this topic is. So as you know, the German wall came down like from Eastern Germany and Western Germany, which was like very deep, you know. And in 1988, 89, that's when it started happening. And then, so Udo had, before the wall came down, a song which was called Mädchen aus Ost-Berlin, which is translated girl from East Berlin, because Berlin was divided. You had to go through a transit road to get to West Berlin, and they had everything. West Berlin, you had like, you know, all sorts of entertainment and whatnot. And East Berlin, you could only see the tower and a few buildings, and that's not, and then nothing. And the rest was just like, they didn't have what we had. They couldn't travel. So it was a bit sad. And he had the story about falling in love with a girl from East Berlin. And he could always, and that is a true story, by the way, what happened, like not autobiographical from his end, but like in general, you could get a day pass if you're like from West Germany. And then you could go for a day pass to visit your girlfriend or something, but then you had to go back. And you can only do this so often. So most of the time, those relationships didn't work out. So check this out. So he wrote the song while the wall was still closed. And I think one of the phrases goes like, maybe next time a little more closer, you know, because we only want to be together. And all of a sudden, the wall came down and I started joining that band. And guess what? My first show with Udo was in East Germany after the wall came down in front of 20,000 people in Dresden.
Oh my God.
And he sang that song in front of all the Eastern German people. And all of a sudden it hit me so hard when he sang that, like maybe a little longer, maybe a little closer, we only want to be together. And you could see all those people starting crying and stuff. And it was really so emotional on stage where you go like, you know, wow, I still get goosebumps thinking about
I know you're giving me goosebumps right now.
And that was a moment with Udo Lindenberg. And see, this is what people sometimes don't get. It's like one of those things when I write songs, and especially now with Randy and also on my solo albums, a lot of people we attract are musos, and they kind of, you know, listen to, hey, this is an 11/16, or this is kind of cool, or, you know, but sometimes these things shouldn't be underestimated. So sometimes I wish that people would listen more to the message in the songs.
The message,
yeah, right.
Sure.
Wow,
Yeah.
you know, that's such a profound story. This is going to be completely silly, but speaking of songs and authorship and that era of the wall coming down, I just listened to an 8-part podcast series called Winds of Change. You know that Scorpion song?
Very much.
And it was really enmeshed with that time. And the podcast series is all about whether or not the CIA had a hand in writing that song as a way of influence. Of course, there's not going to be an answer, or else we'd all know the answer. But there are people within the CIA who think that is a thing, but none of them.
You know, this is so funny. And let me tell you a story. And this is why I can react the way I react. Because first of all, I'm from the town where the Scorpions are, from Hanover. That's why. And I do know all the members of the Scorpions personally for a long time, for I think almost 30 years. So I know Rudolf and Klaus, you know, pretty well. I even have one of Matthias's guitars here, actually, which is in one of those cases. So I can pretty much guarantee you, unless they never told me anything, these guys are totally like us. They're like really cool people. They hang, they talk about music and stuff. If the CIA had something, their fingers in there, then that would surprise me a lot.
The very last episode.
You never know, right? You never know.
In the very last episode, the guy who's doing the podcast goes to that town, sits down with Klaus, and has the interview. And he says, I felt like such an idiot because Klaus is just like completely sounds, you know, of course, he's like, no, I've never heard that. And then he goes, did you come all the way here to ask me that? The guy's like, kind of, yes. Anyway, sorry, that was silly.
That is awesome. That is awesome. Yeah, that makes complete sense. See, it's like that, like a lot of those topics, right? For example, Jimmy Page had a really cool, reacted pretty cool to this one question where they asked him about like if whether Stairway to Heaven, when you play it backwards, it says Satan is a god or something. Right. And his reply was like, you know, well, you know, says like it's kind of funny, you know, it's like, you know, goes, it's already kind of, you know, difficult enough to write a song forward. You know, it goes, you know, and then I try to insert that.
Right.
People kind of hear a lot of things. Yeah.
Yes. A lot of conspiracy theories out there.
I have a question for Marco from James Tejada. It says, and I'll probably pronounce this right. It says, how did you happen to record with Taku Yabuki?
Ooh, Taku Yabuki. That was great. That was really, really, really great. I posted something like a clip actually also, and very well written our charts, very complex, but very understandable music. So you hear it and you think like, ooh, holy cow. So what's going on? And then you read it and you go like, oh. And I remember I played this thing in a few takes, but like without overdubbing, because it was so well written. You could just read it while you were playing it and memorizing it. But that was not the answer to the question, obviously. So one of our managers or slash promoters, Chris Klaarhout, to pronounce it right, Chris Klaarhout, he works with the Aristocrats, and he also works with us and with Randy together. And he sort of kind of towed that on land. You know, he was contacting me, and I think, you know, Taku went through him to get through to me, or maybe even Chris recommended me. I don't know how it was, but I played on a few songs on that album, and so that's how that actually went. It was very easygoing, super cool collaboration, and yeah, this album is out. I don't know what the album was called, but maybe, what's his name? James, right? I guess, right?
Yeah, James Tejada.
Exactly.
Sure, James Tejada knows the title.
Knows. There we go. So maybe, yeah, but Taku Yabuki, you know, that was a cool experience, and thanks for asking that. Yeah.
I have something from Blue Mouth Promotions. Who are those guys?
I don't know. It sounds weird. It sounds good. I don't want to have anything to do with people like that.
I know. There's nothing but trouble out there. For those that don't know, Blue Mouth are the people that keep us working.
Exactly. Those are the people who are the managers for the Aristocrats, for you guys, right? You guys work for them.
For all of us, yeah. So they said, how did you enjoy the Panzer Ballet guest contribution?
Good question. That is from Julian Rodney, isn't it? And thank you also for I think making those contacts. And I know the guys from Panzer Ballet for a while as well. Jan is the singer. Tomorrow I'm going to post a little trailer for the new album, because they deserve it. And that was very cool too. Very complex music. That was one of those recordings where I had to go in and actually overdub and do like parts piece by piece, because they're like so detailed and so arranged, you know.
You didn't do the Take 5 cover, did you?
Yeah, right. The Take 5. Oh, hang on. Oh, you're talking about the Panzer Ballet thing. Yeah. Take 5, wasn't it? Mana Mana, that one. The Mana Mana. But that's it. That's what. Did they take?
Did you do that one? Really?
Yeah, they did. They did that too.
Yeah, but yesterday I was just taking. I didn't even know that you were involved in this, Marco. But I was just telling these guys last night about this cover, and I haven't sent it to them yet. But it's Panzer Ballet, I believe.
Hi.
I didn't know.
You did Phenomena.
They did that. It's good.
Phenomena.
But yeah, I think I played like 2 or 3 songs on the new album, and there's like a bunch of drummers out there, a bunch of guest musicians in general. It's like Virgil Donati, well, myself, then there's like Gergo Bolai, then there's what's this other guy's name? Really cool dude, also dear friend here from Sweden. Come on, I'm blanking right now.
From Sweden?
I forgot his name, man. I'm so sorry. Morgan Agren. Sorry, Morgan. Great guy. Yeah.
I have this is probably a general question from Wayne. I'm not sure if we all have a real answer for this, but it says, how do you all cope with playing when you don't feel well or know you don't have your best stuff that night? So talking about when we're on tour.
It's bad, isn't it? You know, we all can kind of say something to that, isn't it? I mean, you have to, man, you know, I guess, you know, with experience, your experience there is the best teacher to kind of, you know, sort of ignore the problem and kind of, you know, just let the music flow. I think, you know, the worst problem is not even that you feel not well or something like that, but you know, sometimes when the sound is not good, and then you kind of try to compensate it through your playing, but that's sometimes a mistake. So if you have actually a bad monitor sound, for example, or you feel that the sound is kind of really shit, and you kind of try to overcompensate it, you know, with playing way too much or too loud or too quiet or whatnot. Right. That's when you need to kind of let go and kind of tell your brain, go like, no, just play as you would regularly feel comfortable. All of a sudden, you get into the zone and go like, oh, wait a minute. This is not a problem. We're still flying the plane. It's okay. Right.
Yeah. Sometimes you're battling your own bandmates over that mix, right?
Yeah, I know.
Well, and battling your own brain over what Marco's talking about, letting go and saying, okay, this is going to take care of itself. Do my job.
Yeah.
And it is what it is. And yes, the plane is still in the air.
Yeah, there's nothing else you can really do about it. You know?
Yeah.
Have you ever canceled a gig because you were so ill you couldn't play a gig?
Yes, that happened. Oh God, that was years ago, but that was at a clinic, and we did like a triple clinic kind of thing, you know, like a drum trio thing, and it was actually fully okay because the others carried it then, but I had a stomach flu or something, so I could not keep food in and whatnot. So I think I had food poisoning. Yeah. And I remember, I set one gig out, and that was one gig I literally didn't play, and the others kind of, you know, compensated for that and told the story. And the next day I was back on track there. But yeah, that was unfortunately where one gig got canceled in my entire career. I guess it was the only show. I
have one as well.
Yeah.
And, okay. And we were doing 2 different concerts in the park at 2 different parks in the same day. So it was the second of those concerts. But it was like a free concert in the park kind of thing. So, you know, how much did people pay to get in anyway? You know what I mean? It's like, but I was so sick. I had strep throat for like a week, and it was getting worse and worse and worse. And then I could not even squeak out anything to say hi. And at the first gig of the day, Jennifer did the talking.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Like, that's how bad it was.
They all made so much fun of me after that because I was like, hello, San Francisco.
Hey, speaking of Jennifer doing the talking, can we just take a quick look at this and talk about this memory?
Uh-oh.
Oh, dear.
Oh, nice.
Oh, wow. Yes, absolutely.
Remember this? This is the one time that Marco had a frontman in front of him on an Aristocrats tour.
So cool. Right? Yeah, a real frontman, right? That's like, it was totally like stage presence and doing the whole charismatic thing. That was like Smuggler's Corridor, wasn't it? Where you did like, you know, the Cookie Monster. La, 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 la.
And if you take a close look at Jennifer's left hand.
I know. I wonder what she's doing there with the left hand. I can't really see
I can't quite see what that is. That's still between me and Marco. There's a lot of backstory to that night, I'm pretty sure.
That's the tour manager letting everyone know who's boss.
Yeah, absolutely. Exactly.
Right? About being sick on the road, we've been doing that bit kind of for a while, all the way until Canada. And then remember, I got strep throat. I was stuck in Toronto at a clinic, and I was so sick. And then I ended up giving it to Brian Beller, probably through the microphone. Anyways, oh my God, I was so sick. And then my duties were relinquished to Gino.
Yeah. We were spreading COVID when it wasn't cool.
I know. It could have been. Oh my God, that was.
You never know, right? You know, until they had it really kind of, you know, totally mapped out what it was. You know, we all got sick on the road. You know, especially also in Europe, and we had like, you know, exactly when it happened in Italy, where it was like the epicenter of Europe. Basically, we were there and we got sick. Pretty much everyone. Like, you know, our one of our techs, I think it was Enrico, he had it first. and unbelievable. He was like sick for 2 weeks with full-on flu-like symptoms. And then I think Brian, his girlfriend, and I got it as well, and Guthrie got it. So we passed it totally around. Then Emilio got it as well from the other tech. So we all got sick, and maybe it was actually one of those things. You know, you never know.
Yeah. So you're immune now.
Yeah,
I'm immune.
You should be immune.
No, that's the thing. That's the thing, because I had this talk with Nama. You met Nama. She's my ex-girlfriend. She was on the tour with us, and she's a doctor. She works at a hospital and a surgeon as well. And she said already, when I told her about the Italy story, she said, like, yeah, the location and the symptoms are accurate. And then the next thing is, I recently Skyped with her, and well, here's the good and the bad news. Now, actually, that's not really good news. So if so, there are two things. It's like the antibodies that you build, and then the T cells. So the antibodies will take care of the virus.
Okay.
Now, that will only last for so long because the virus will morph into something else. It will mutate. You know, that's what a virus does to live on.
Right.
So that will last only for a few months. And then the T cells are usually the ones that kind of, you know, surround any intruder inside of your body and guide it out of your system. So they will kind of remember part of it too. So those will be like a little more of a hope than the antibody you get. But in general, I guess, you know, from what I've heard and what Nama also told me, is like 3 to 6 months. That's what you have with your immunity.
That's the immunity.
And you get reinfected if you.
Damn it.
Yep. And that also makes it difficult for the vaccine to establish, right? You know, because since that whole virus morphs, you have to come up with new vaccines.
Right. Well, the good news is that we don't turn into flesh-eating zombies or anything like that, right?
You never know, you know. I mean, you know, let's wait for a few months, you know. Maybe that's, you know, one of those.
I was watching what's the Omega Man remake with Will Smith the other night again on TV, and the whole premise of that is that, you know, of course they give everybody the
vaccine.
You know, the vaccine, and of course that creates the zombies at the end of the day, right?
There you go.
So who knows what's going to happen, right?
You mentioned that, huh?
So this is backtracking a little bit, but I have a question from James Ulrich. How did you get to know Randy and get involved in this project with him?
Well, the thing is, like with Randy, we met the first time actually through Dave Kersner. Remember Dave Kersner? The keyboard player? And
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. He's really cool. And he had me play on a few tracks for 2 albums, I think it was. And then it was In Continuum, and then it was also another band, which I forgot what it was called. I guess In Continuum was the main thing. And yeah, exactly. So that we did. And then, you know, he invited me over to play like a few shows. It was first of all at Progstock. And that was in close to New Jersey somewhere. Poway, I guess, you know, New Jersey. And then also the Cruise to the Edge a little later. And that's where also Randy kind of, you know, was part of the band. You know, he basically came in, and we already actually at Progstock during the rehearsals, I kind of, you know, checked out his sounds, how he played, and he was very accurate. His timing was great. His tone was great. Then his singing on top of his was great. So I thought, like, man, this guy's really cool. And then on the Cruise to the Edge, we hung already actually in New Jersey there at Progstock, had a few whiskeys and nice talks. And then on the Cruise to the Edge, we had time to hang for a bunch of days and compared our record collection and had surprisingly a lot of the similar tastes. I remember, like, you know, we had like one thing that totally connected with us because we brought up Flowers of Romance, and which was like the 3rd album from Public Image Limited with Johnny Rotten. Alias John Lydon, or aka John Lydon. And so we both loved that album. We were like, wow, you know that too? And we were like, holy cow, we are friends now. And so and then we started, I remember, like, Randy asked me if I would play like some drums on one of his albums, and I did. And when he sent the songs over, it felt great instantly. It was like, oh my God, this is kind of stuff I would also listen to. This is like really organic. It feels great. The song is meaningful, but it's also musicianship in it, but it's just great. Just a good song. And then I invited him over to play some stuff on my last solo record, which is called My Sister, and he did great. And then the next thing, I think he asked me before I could even ask him, because I planned the same way. of doing so. But Randy kind of goes like, hey, how about we do like a, you know, an album together, like a duo thing. I was instantly saying yes. And then we brought like songs in. And before you know it, the album came together pretty fast and furious and nicely. It was like really one of those things where you trust blindly the other person. You know already when you send like your song there that, you know, what's ending up on the song is going to be great. There was hardly any tweaking from both ends, and that was like really, really cool. So we still have this great relationship going on and are preparing for the second album right now, which is pretty much done already from the writing recording part. We're about to mix it. So yeah, it's but yeah, that's how we've met through Prog-Stock and Dave.
Oh, wow.
Dave Kurzner. Yeah.
All right. I'm gonna ask a question that I want to ask, and then if you guys have anything at some point, Dale's gonna bonsai this with drummer stuff. But I have
do that to you.
I have some drummer stuff because first of all, just a comment and then a question. But the comment is, we've toured with a lot of bands, and I've never seen a guy take a drum solo like you every night and go so far out on a different limb. Usually things are very regimented and worked out, and it's kind of, this is the drum solo for the night. It's part of the show. And you literally just go out on a ledge and dive off every night and do something different. And I've never seen that. I've never seen that from anybody.
I hope it's a good thing.
It's ridiculously cool because you never seem to fall in your face. I mean, obviously you have better nights than others, like we all do, but I've never seen someone that risky with it. But the technical question, or historically technical, I suppose, is you do a lot of polyrhythmic things. You do a lot of overlapping time signature type of bits and things like that. Is there something in your history or somebody that kind of turned you on to that sort of thing that inspired you to start doing that and get really good at it?
Well, strangely enough, it was more, since, you know, I play guitar as well and all this kind of stuff, it came out of necessity a little bit. So I never thought from, like, purely from the drummer's perspective. I always thought about, like, how can I serve the music, or how can I even create music on the drum set when I'm alone? You know, solo spots. So that goes hand in hand. So for example, I remember the first time I really started to do something extreme, on quotation marks, was when I kind of, in the 80s, when I was a teenager, you know, I had like, I wanted to have like another hi-hat on the right side, but just not an X-hat that you can play with your hand, but something I can play with my foot as well. And by that time, there were no real cable hi-hats out there. And I think the first one was established, I don't know if it was Pearl or something, but they had a really bulky, heavy-going cable hi-hat with, like, you know, 2 hydraulic mechanisms. It looked weird. I was the first one to get one of those then. And I had it on that side, and then on this side, another hi-hat. And then I was starting to playing paradiddles. And so I played, like, paradiddles with that. And I thought, like, oh, my gosh, because I never heard anything like that before in my life, right? And then I thought, like, this is cool. And I was so excited, and I thought, like, oh shit! But now I don't have a bass drum because I'm occupied playing, you know, the pedals, the hi-hats with my feet. So that's when I kind of got a gong drum. By that time, you know, I couldn't afford a gong drum or something. I was like 14 years old or something. So I bought like a cheap ass kick drum and mounted off the head or something. They gave it to me for $60 at the drum store. They were very supportive of me because they always thought, like, man, this guy has some cool shit going here. We support you. And they gave me all sorts of stuff. And so I hung the gong drum over there, and all of a sudden I was able to play like the backbeat and the groove with my left hand, and then accent or play some melodies with the right hand, right? Nice. And I told this story many times, but I tell it happily again for the ones who haven't heard it. But for me, that feeling of creating something that I thought at least wasn't there before, that I've never had heard before, was the biggest feeling. It was like, it was bigger than money or bigger than anything else. It made you want to feel to God on the streets and kind of see, like, look, you know, and then kind of bring it to the audience and see whether they like it or not, right? But I always tell that same story, but it's kind of really valid, I think. It's like, you know, nobody can buy you talent or your creativity. So if somebody kind of comes on with a $40 million helicopter and goes like, look, I got a $40 million helicopter, I would say, like, yeah, but can you play an inverted paradiddle with both feet on hi-hats and this? You can take your helicopter and fuck off. How about this? To me, you know, this is not what you get remembered for. What you gotta get remembered for, is if you're, you know, a great player or did something unique. I would say the word unique, you know.
Exactly.
Can I add a Trevor?
Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Oh, Trav, are you done with that question? Because I had an add-on to that.
Oh, yeah,
so
to finish that off real quick, yes, of course, there were some books I've been working at. So for example, Stick Control from George Lawrence Stone has all the combinations. You probably have it right there, don't you? You're gonna
no. Well, yeah, I do, but I'm gonna take notes if you start saying what to do with Stick Control.
Yeah. So the thing is, and I kind of went through Stick Control with my hands, but then also played it with the feet, and then with this side of the body against this side, and then that side of the body against that side. So, and that was a template, for my independence as well, and I wrote it in one of my books actually as well. But there are also books I've been working on when I was a teenager, and that was Gary Chester's New Breed, a fantastic book. And then players like Terry Bozzio, who were the first ones to really work with ostinatos, right? And all that kind of stuff. I mean, there were others before, I guess, who did similar stuff, but there were certain benchmarks where people took it to another extreme, right?
Yeah.
So I want to give these players props as well. I don't want to come across, I invented everything. I did maybe something or from different angles or stuff, but there are people you can give props to as well.
Sure.
So the end.
That's the single book that influenced me the most, probably. But okay, so what I was going to add on to Travis's question was, so I sort of decided to go down a polyrhythmic road, an ostinato road, with my soloing too, not at the level of what you're doing, but even as somebody who doesn't do it at your level, I pretty quickly noticed, I got all excited because I'm like, okay, great, I can do these two things. And then, of course, it's really hard to get the third thing. And then you work at that for 6 months and you figure that out. And then I was getting excited about it. And even though I wasn't doing it at your level, I quickly hit this thing where it was exciting to people to hear. And then you quickly pass up people's ability to hear it or care about it.
Yeah.
And it kind of just, people just glaze over at a certain point, but you do it at this level where people still respond to it. And my question actually is, have you had to really consciously throw away a lot of things you've learned because nobody responds, and then pick what translates, or is it
both?
Just
a little bit of both. The thing is, sometimes you come up with a pattern that is ridiculously complex, but it also sounds ridiculously complex, and it's not necessarily good.
Right.
I try to kind of, do these things when I have something that is ridiculously complex. I try to make it sound musical. And that's, first of all, picking the right instruments where it kind of, starts breathing and where it kind of, starts like an arrangement. And then I put the polyrhythmics on top and mainly phrase them with one hand maybe as a melody and then have the other hand do like a groove on the hi-hat. And this is all of a sudden where people can latch onto and kind of go and move to, So that is the thing I've learned over the time, and also, yes, what you said, actually I pay attention and play with the audience. I'm not there to play with myself. I know it sounds wrong, but but that's the thing. It's like, you're on stage and you're elevated. That's why it's called a stage. That means you speak to the people. And that means, you have to make them happy. You have to make a conversation with them, because I don't believe it when people say like, oh, I don't care about the audience. It's just like as long as we have fun, then it's all fine. No, it's not, because without the people in the audience, you wouldn't be up on stage. Yeah. So you better entertain them.
In fact, I would argue that it's really all about the people.
It really. No, I tell you what, that's the bond, isn't it? I always say that you give the energy, and the people bring the energy back, and they respond to the energy you give. So it's the biggest feeling. It's the greatest feeling if you get like a great response, isn't it? That's it's the fuel for us.
Yeah. Hey, just a shout out. I see your official cowbell fluffer from the last tour on here. And Gino Saginario says, watching those solos every night was amazing, and no one was closer than Gino. So.
Oh man, Gino's great, man. Hi Gino, what's up, man? We should all hang. I really need to come down to you guys' place, drive up, and then we hang.
Yeah, we'll barbecue, and you can pick up your CDs and your drum.
Oh, that's right, man. That's right. The gong drum is still.
I still have the gong drum and a box of albums. So I've been selling them at shows just on the side.
Yeah, right.
and your cymbal stands in my set. It's so sorry. You're not getting that back.
Exactly. It's getting all better than it's being in use, so that's good.
I got a couple of Who's the Mans. This is from Greg Toms.
Oh, cool.
Hal Blaine or Buddy Rich?
Okay, well, I have to pick, of course, someone, right? And I'm gonna pick Buddy Rich, and that's because out of the pure, I don't have much knowledge about Hellblame. That's the problem. I know who Hellblame is, but I'm not so familiar with this kind of stuff. It's for some reason I would have to dive down the catalog, but I know a lot of the Buddy Rich catalog, and I played with the Buddy Rich big band, and we played like a lot of the songs. So I know. I'm also good friends with the family, you know, with Kathy, his daughter, and Nick, his grandson. So, but that's not the reason why I would kind of obviously pick it. But I also, you know, there is no denying that Buddy Rich brought something to the drama community that nobody else did. So I have to pick Buddy Rich right now.
Yeah.
Speaking of family, next time Kathy and her son are at a show that we're playing, don't tell me till after I play.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Trying to put that out of my mind the whole time.
That's true. Well, I think they didn't even show up by that show, didn't they?
I didn't even know that.
I didn't know anymore. But yeah.
They were on the guest list, but I don't think they ultimately showed up.
Yeah, that's right. But somebody said like, no, they actually were. But now I'm confused. It doesn't matter. I'll ask them.
It's okay.
Okay, so here's a Who's the Man that I was holding on to. This is like you have to know Marco to throw this, because this is a wide spectrum Who's the Man right here.
Oh, dear.
Roger Taylor or Stuart Copeland?
Stuart Copeland, probably.
Yeah.
I kind of figured you'd go there.
Yeah, here's the thing, though. I have to stretch that out a little bit, because the Police and also Queen are some of my favorite bands of all time.
Right.
So here's the thing. If it's a drummer-related question, I would probably at the end of the day say Stuart, because he has just this unique drive and this cool feel to it. But I love Roger Taylor's songwriting and his beat. He provides just the musicality for Queen, you know, and he's an incredible singer. So I'm not sure, you know, whether the question is just related to the humans or to the drums or the songwriting or something. So obviously I would have to say usually both, but if it comes to the drum part, Stuart is pretty cool, you know.
Yeah,
Stuart's the man, right?
Yeah.
That was my
interesting thing about Who's the Man is it all depends on your perspective of there's a lot of different, you know, aspects or angles to these people. So yeah.
I have several segues here, but let me just say first.
I can wait.
I was going to say first, my first favorite trio of all time was the Police.
Great, right?
You know, and then obviously Rush is in there. But go ahead, Dale. You were going to say something.
Oh, well, I had a Who's the Man too, but I maybe should spread them out.
Okay.
I do demand a Travis Larson, Marco Minnemann Police project, though.
Man, yeah, we were like, oh gosh, you know, like,
dude,
man, we should kind of, you know, jam.
That would be dangerous. We have to find like the perfect bass player that can sing high, right? I would be all over that.
Do this. She's the man. Jen's the man.
They'd be like, Roxanne.
Yeah, it'd be like death metal Roxanne.
Yeah,
right. James Tejada had another question. I'll probably pronounce this poorly. He said, "How did you and Alex Machesik get drafted into UK?"
Oh yeah, that was Eddie Jobson. He contacted us separately, I guess. He kind of looked around by the time who's sort of in the scene right now and kind of doing things, and he kind of looked for musicians that could play like a bunch of stuff that and would be capable to play the UK stuff and feel comfortable with it and would like it. And he contacted us, and there we were. I played with UK almost for a decade, you know, so, and with UKZ as well, and there were like, you know, a bunch of branches of that band. So but that's how that happened. Eddie actually literally found us. He did like some homework and was actually checking out YouTube clips and all kinds of shit.
Nice.
Yeah.
So I'm going to answer this for you, Marco, and then we can leave. There's going to be a secondary question that we'll just leave blank. But Tommy says, can Marco touch on the inspiration for the name of the album, Boing, We Do It Live? Well, I'm going to tell Tommy, because there's a title, Boing, We'll Do It in the Back, and I think we could stop there.
Boing, I'm in the back, yeah.
We could leave it at that, right?
We leave it at that. It's an 18 and over question.
Right.
This question belongs to Amsterdam.
This is a good mention. I just mentioned Rush is my other favorite trio of all time, as I know Marco is a huge Rush fan. And Dave Roberts asks, Marco, any possibility of future Alex Lifeson collaborations, the last collaboration being stellar? And then he says, thanks TLB for the live broadcast. Nice to see the positive vibes.
Oh, that's so cool. So, likewise, by the way, to you guys for the positive vibes and for the excellent entertainment here and knowledgeable questions and topics that we have. But yeah, with Alex, I'm still in touch with Alex. We always write, and he recently just wrote me, hey, you know, if you ever need guitars again, stuff, you know where to find me, right? You know, and so he's just a great guy, you know. And well, you know, the Rush guys, I don't really think, I mean, you know, they kind of, you know, now that Neil unfortunately passed away, which was really saddening, I don't think that they're really planning like a Rush reunion or something like that. And also like talking with Alex, he already said a few years ago to me, he goes like, yeah, you know, after 41 years of doing records and touring, you know, the thought of retirement or something is a potential enemy, you know. But I can see him still being joyful playing guitar and stuff like that. But, you know, these guys have been on the road for a long time. And if they don't really need to go out and tour again, then and maybe don't want to and maybe want to take care and spend time with their family, I wouldn't blame them. You know, they don't owe us anything, don't they? You know, they let so much cool stuff in the history in the history.
Well, so. Absolutely. Now I don't think you would ever want them to do anything, but even leaving it as they left it before Neil passed, I think there's something to be said for leaving something on the table, so to speak, and not going until people wish you would stop, if you know what I mean. Absolutely.
That leaving it on a high note is always a good thing, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, especially a band like that where it's such a high level and you don't want to see those guys struggling. You don't want to see that legacy fall apart over time. And we all know those bands, you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. Strangely enough, what you just said, to add that, Neil himself said that once when they kind of stopped touring, and he says, there's a song, I don't know if you guys know it. I'm sure you know Travis for sure. You know, I'm not sure. Dale, you're a big Rush fan as well, aren't you? Right? Dale?
Yeah.
We know what you're gonna say.
Losing It.
Yes.
The song "Losing It," and Neil, and it's about an old actress and an old writer and a painter and stuff, and kind of, you know, stopping before they kind of, you know, basically are losing it. And Neil said about the band himself or something, about himself. He says like, I better stop drumming. I don't want to be the character in one of my own songs.
Right.
That was very, very wise, you know, and very, very cool thing to say.
I used to. Oh,
here's my next toast.
Gosh, nice. 18? Yeah, you. I know, you know.
Oh, Kellen.
You got all the fine ones, you know. I had just a sip left here, so this one is empty. I would just get a wine, you know, but I want to keep the conversation going because otherwise I have to do this whole thing.
Steal right now. There you go.
I was gonna say I
drain some more out of it here. Let me see, like some more drops. There you go.
Marco, I used to teach some of my better drum students over the bar line phrasing, and I would lean on the solo section of Losing It. Rush, both the guitar and the drums, and it was just so. Yeah, it became like numberless. You know what I mean? It was just this beautiful thing. Except I would always cry and make it weird because the song is so powerful, and I had to stop doing it. It would always make me tear up.
It's such a good song, isn't it?
Oh my gosh!
You can't cry during lessons.
I know, it's not cool. So that leads me. Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Yeah.
I was going through, well, in the toast vein. I was going through old pictures to remind me of touring and sharing drum sets and setups with you and I. And I came across a picture that made me come up with this Who's the Man? And it is, this picture must be in there because you were educating me about Scotch. So the Who's the Man? The Who's the Man is, if I pronounce it right, Abelauer? Thank you. Or the Macallan. That's my Who's the Man. Both single malts.
Strangely enough, it depends, first of all, on the years you pick.
Oh, let me, well.
Check this out. Strangely enough, and many people would probably disagree, I would pick Abelauer.
Okay.
And the reason is, Abelauer has like a very fine taste, and it's very unique. And if you find like the 16 or 18-year-old Abelauer, wow, it's unbelievable. The palette is just great. Macallan is fantastic too, but Macallan is also very potent. Oh yeah, the McAllen 18 is.
I also have a Balvenie 21 here.
Oh, Balvenie, yeah, 20.
Balvenie.
21. You know,
we're not fucking around.
This is a recipe recommendation.
Those 3 bottles buy you LS Paul, man.
So I told you got to come visit.
I know. I'll be there tomorrow.
It was an Abelauer 18. So
Abelauer 18, fantastic.
So here's that silly story that I just am remembering. Go ahead.
No, I would just say to you, because you always have to pick between something really good right now, isn't it? You know, so. But I also have like a story behind it, because my dad, my father, once he found that Abelauer, and I didn't know the Abelauer. He know I likes good Scotch, and all of a sudden, a bottle arrives, like for my birthday or for Christmas, which is at the same time, on the same day, and it was the Abelauer, and he found out, and he did like such a research about like what is the finest whiskey or something, and he came up with the Abelauer 18. And I remember I opened the bottle, and then my friend Mohammed, who was playing with Necrophagist as well, we tried it both, and we were both like connoisseurs of that. We were both going like, "Oh my gosh, it's so good!" So if you find Abelauer 18, try it. Tell Dave about it.
Okay, yes. Yeah, I will. It might be here. I don't know.
My problem is the night I discovered that. I think this is the right night with the picture that I have. Is you were telling me about this, and you ordered, and you were kind enough to get me to try. And I think the bartender pieced it together at the last second and went, "It's Marco Minnemann." And so like he just completely stoked us and just poured like a tumbler full of whiskey, right? And I remember you going, "That's like $40 worth of whiskey right there," and I had one, and then I felt like I should reciprocate, right? So I got you one, and he did the same thing, and I just tried to try it once, and I paid it back, and then I was so hammered, I just got an Uber and took myself out of the equation.
Oh, that's right. I remember that. I remember that day. All of a sudden, you were gone. You were like,
yes.
in more ways than one, right?
Yeah.
All right, losing it. Hey.
Yeah. That was a weird night in a lot of ways, but
can I just say that as the Travis Larson of the bunch, I watch you guys drinking $40 shots of whiskey, and I just see burritos going down your throats in the little thing of liquid. I'm like, okay, how much food is that?
I never ever touched this stuff. I brought this stuff out special for Marco tonight because I know he's
amazing, and you make me really jealous right now because I am whiskeyless right now, and so you're inspiring. It's done to go to the shop and get a bottle of something.
Yeah.
Sam says Jen's a professional. There's a whole there's a whole feed of comments now based on this whole thing.
Like I said, this was Marco specific. These stay up on the upper shelf where I could barely reach. I had to get a little step stool. I couldn't even.
We had such a great time, and I really gotta say, when we were on the road, especially in Canada, where we had like those few days off, actually in Montreal. And it was great, all of a sudden, all those bottles were there. And in Florida as well, right? In Orlando, we had the same thing. All of a sudden, all these bottles showed up on the days off, and we would kind of be the whiskey connoisseurs, and kind of
tasting. It's not like we were getting, it was more about tasting and contrast. And
we were always the sipping people and always kind of the tasting people, because this kind of stuff. Yeah. Oh, I gotta tell you a funny story. Just the other day, not the other day, a few months ago, actually. A while back before COVID, I think, obviously, because now you shouldn't go out, but it was like at this bar, and my friend here, Martin, he's like a really dear friend of mine, guitar player and a bass player also, and a singer. And we were, we're both also whiskey connoisseurs. So I always kind of make sure what Dale just said, to get like good, whiskeys at the bar. So there was one guy who also actually recognized me, and he's a guitar player and he's a fan, and he wanted to hang a little bit. And so he bought a few rounds or whatnot, and I bought something too. And then I bought the finest whiskey they had at the bar, right? So these 3 glasses arrived, and I was just turning over to him, telling him that this is a fine sipping whiskey. Just saying, go like, by the way, and I remember, like, check this out. I was just like, by the way. By that time, I just saw him doing this. Oh,
oh no!
Oh,
like, And then he goes like, that went down way smoother than other whiskeys. Wow. I was like, yeah, that's what I just meant to tell you. You just drank actually a $20 bill or $25. I feel like you can do whatever you want. I'm not gonna lecture you there. It's fine, but that's so bad. He felt so bad. He was like, oh God, I'm so sorry. So now when he sees me somewhere, he goes like, hey, I gotta buy you another whiskey. And I was like, no, this is not right. Whiskeys now.
It's like listening to the latest Rush album on your iPhone speaker.
Right.
Exactly, right? Totally.
I just set it on the desk and listen.
Yeah.
Gino says those whiskey nights were awesome. Yeah, we know, Gino.
Yeah, we know.
Hey,
I have a who's the man for Marco that's sort of maybe specific to some of the discussions we had on tour. And these may not be comparable, but specific to their animations.
Ooh.
Don Hertzfeld, David Lynch.
Oh, I would have to pick David Lynch.
Okay.
Don Hertzfeld is great, you know. Don Hertzfeld, I love Don Hertzfeld, but look, David Lynch. First of all, he's such a monumental figure already. He's like such a legend, isn't he? He's like, you know, he has such a legacy, you know, behind him. You know that I instantly would kind of go in this direction, you know. Mm-hmm. But just I don't know.
No, it goes back to that thing.
What's yours, Jen? Who would you pick, Jen?
I would agree. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, Don.
Sorry, Don. Next.
There's a bunch of comments here that I don't understand. Kirkland 25 is really good. I don't know what that means because I don't drink.
Oh, yeah, that's probably,
It's Costco whiskey.
Yeah.
Pretty sure.
You never know,
I'm embarrassed that I know that, but whatever. So I will say, I like your attitude earlier, Marco, where you said you have to answer one, right? That's the right attitude for Who's the Man. But and since we're talking to Marco Minnemann, I thought I'd go the other way and get real meat and potatoes. Who's the Man? So Phil Rudd, AC/DC, or Charlie Watts?
Phil Rudd.
Me too.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, but Charlie does that thing where he lifts the hi-hat on every.
Right? It's kind of funny, and he doesn't always do it. You sometimes see him actually play, especially with this jazz band or something, and he actually plays the hi-hat then. And so it's not that he's incapable of doing that. He actually does it. But I tell you what, I like Charlie Watts, especially when you listen to the song "Bitch" from Sticky Fingers. Fantastic groove. Also Shattered, or also pretty much, you know, what's that cool groovy song? Oh, here, Emotional Rescue. That's really and most of Tattoo You is actually, there are some great grooves from Charlie.
Mm-hmm.
So how big of a Stones guy are you?
I know a lot of the Stones. I could have a Stones geek out with you because I'm also like a vinyl collector.
Yeah,
and I have, I think, 2 or 3 Stones boxes. One is a 4 CD box, which is called the Voodoo Tapes or something, which is going for, meanwhile, hundreds of dollars. And then I have a bunch of the original Sticky Fingers, the ones with the zipper, obviously.
Oh, wow, cool.
But then there's also the Spanish version with the cover, which I think is better. The
and
one
a soup thing.
with the open can, or with the soup finger.
Yep.
I have the reissue, the double vinyl reissue, which only has 2,000 copies, and I have it here.
Oh, that's awesome!
Yeah.
That's so cool.
So that's how much.
That is a very cool cover. Yeah,
that's a cool cover, isn't it? You know.
Yeah.
And I know Chris is a huge geek, right?
I'm a huge geek. The Stones were my first exposure to rock and roll that I latched onto.
Yeah.
You know, and so I have every bootleg of everything in a bin. You know, like before they released it on PBS, I had the Chicago show with Muddy Waters.
Oh,
stuff like that. Like, and you know, it's like for this audience, everybody's probably looking at us like confused right now. But, but you know, music is music, and you get high off of what you get high off of, right? And
you know, the first shows that I've seen when I was a kid was Queen. I saw Queen twice with Freddie Mercury, which is cool.
Nice.
And then I saw the Still Life tour from the Rolling Stones.
Oh, wow.
That's one thing where they did the album with, and I have the album also still here, and the original concert ticket, which looks like the tongue.
Oh,
and
cool.
Original pictures, because, you know, friends of us took like some pictures, and so they're all there. So yeah, there is a history with that, and that's simply quite cool. They have like some great material.
Yeah. So the Still Life tour is when I was turned on to them. You know, I mean, obviously I've gone back, but I was about, you know, I was just that age. We're all the same exact age. And so it was kind of like, you know, they were on, I think I mean, I could tell you the exact story how I got turned on to them, but I saw them in concert from the Still Life tour on HBO as a kid. And that's where I was just like, you know, what is this? And Keith was, you know, back then Keith was wearing like a leather vest and boots, you know, and just like, this guy is like just the coolest thing I've ever seen. And, you know, what is this rock and roll thing? I mean, you know, I'd heard music. The first cassette I ever had was The Cars.
Oh wow, yeah, exactly.
You know, but to actually see like a rock band and see, you know, and people that don't understand Mick Jagger was like the greatest frontman of all time. You know, I mean, there's a lot of guys obviously that can sing crazy stuff and all that, but Mick Jagger had that charisma back then that, you know, he was Mick Jagger. Like there wasn't any other Mick Jagger. It's like the David Bowie thing, right? It's
absolutely.
There's just no other guy like that. And you look at that as like a 9-year-old, 10-year-old kid and you go, what is this? I have no idea. I've never seen anything like this. So
by that time, they were also still kind of, you know, what we do in whiskey tasting, they would do in drug tasting, I suppose. And so, you know, that was like a really cool story that a friend of mine told me, who's also the bass player in Udo Lindenberg, this guy we talked earlier about. Mm-hmm. And he knew some of those guys. He toured with another artist who also played with the Stones. He actually opened up, Peter Maffay is his name. And he opened up for the Stones on the German Still Life tour leg. And the bass player, he told me that story that all of a sudden Keith Richards, he walked in and had like a bandage over his head, like something. And he goes like, oh my God. He goes, what happened? And he said like, well, I was asleep in the backstage with my head on the table. And then I woke up and then I kind of tried to get up and I fell asleep again and hit my head. So,
great story.
That's how high those guys were, man.
Yeah, he was Keith in those days. Keith would literally during the show sit on the drum riser with a full bottle, like what you guys are sipping, and he would just
wow.
Like
that's rough right there.
I have video. Hey, Matt Tate says, Dale, I've got to know. I assume, is he talking about the mystery mug or did I miss something?
Matt's referring to an earlier joke, Who's the Man, which is it's a multi-level pun. Who's the mini man? Vern Troy or Kenny Baker?
What?
Who's the mini man? Vern Troyer, who's
a little person.
You answer.
I'm not touching it.
I heard he recently passed.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah.
Well, geez, Matt.
Gosh, Matt.
Not cool, Matt.
Oh, so
it was good fun.
Mick Taylor, best guitarist Stones ever had. That's what Steve says. I'm just reading some of the comments.
What does Travis say?
Oh.
Well, I mean, you're talking technically best, or are you talking about the whole package of the guy on stage? I mean,
you're the big Stones fan. I don't know.
I mean, I don't know. How do we answer this, Marco? Because like, there's 3 utility guitar players in that band, right? Like,
all right, break them all down. Let's hear it.
Well, I can only say Mick and I know each other for quite a while. Mick Taylor is actually a really sweet guy. He lives in Holland now, partially. He's married there to a girl, or maybe it's his girlfriend. I don't know. But and part of the Stones came to our show in Melbourne when I was there with Joe Satriani, and Mick Jagger couldn't do the show. He had like throat things, strep throat or something. And so Mick Taylor and a bunch of other guys from the band and entourage showed up at the backstage, and we all had a great hang, and it was kind of loud and vibrant. And I remember talking with Mick and talking about some guitar geeky stuff. And I said one thing, and I was like, hey, what's your favorite song of Sticky Fingers? All of a sudden, the whole room was like, Joe and everyone was like, oh,
yeah.
And sure enough, he goes, I don't know, but I think he said Wild Horses or something. But it was like one of those religious experiences, right? You know, where you know everybody knows that album and everybody wants to know what's going on, right? That's so cool.
Right.
Nice.
So Tommy says respectfully, it's Mick. Who's the best guitarist? Well, and obviously, technically, you got to say that. But when I was brought into the Stones, you had like Keith and Ronnie, who are almost like the Wonder Twins. It's like this weird thing where they're like kind of the same guy in a way, you know.
Yeah. It's the way they lock and the glue, right, and they sound together and stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, you know, Mick Taylor had some, I mean, especially Sticky Fingers and those albums, they were pretty cool, actually. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Mick Taylor is Honky Tonk Woman.
Oh, yeah, 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 right.
I mean, there's not a bigger Stones song than that. You know, I mean, that's right up there with like all the huge ones. And that one, you know, you always think of Keith playing it, but Mick Taylor actually came up with that bit.
Oh, wow. That's cool.
And it was some kind of like country weird tuning, I think, back in the day before Keith was just taking strings off the guitar so he couldn't play a bad note.
So yeah, I remember like the 5-string guitar, right?
Yeah, I think it was. I mean, they would argue this probably, but I think they were just making those guitars more and more bulletproof so that you could do anything to them.
Yeah,
and they would still sound like they belonged in the band.
Oh my gosh! Yeah. That's
so
stuff, man.
All right, guys, how we doing? Is everybody all right?
Hey, should I ask that question that our friend asked us to ask Marco earlier?
Good.
So
I don't know what it was.
We were talking to a very visible and badass rock star drummer earlier today, and we were like, "What should we ask Marco?" And he said, "Ask him of these big high-profile projects that he's worked on, what was just something that comes to mind as a really rewarding or fun creative experience making the project."
What was the most fun actually working with them? So it doesn't have to be the project you're most proud of, but what was the most fun working, like if it was a Joe Satriani record or if it was a whatever record it was?
That's a difficult question. It's like asking, you know, hey, which is the best restaurant you've ever eaten and what was the best dish? It's really different. You know, sometimes you want to have sushi and sometimes you want to have a steak. But, you know, it goes all hand in hand, right? You know, the joyful experience is, you know, with the people you work with, right? You know, how easygoing is it? You know, how musical is it? Can you identify yourself musically with it? You know, so obviously right now, and kind of, you know, given the current circumstances, I will now actually give props to Randy McStein. Because Randy and I, we are writing together, we are playing together and recording, and everything is over now almost 2 years time since we first ran into each other. Very peaceful, very fruitful, very musical, and we're on the same page. There's never even a sign of any acrimony. It's just like very great. There are just so many things where I think like, my God, this is how it is supposed to be.
Nice.
It's like you're literally kind of, there's no argument. You just lock. There's no unnecessary arguments or kind of discussions about something that shouldn't even belong there. It's really about the music and about the pure joy of making songs. So I really want to give Randy props here. You know, he's a very talented musician who now gets like rightfully more and more recognition throughout the years.
Nice.
Yeah.
So
Well, good. I look forward to checking out number 2, you know, and then just so happy you guys are working this out together in the partnership.
That the second album is more experimental and has like a lot more variety. Like really, like the first album was like, you know, very defined, you know, and had like, you know, it's almost like a little more like the Police or something like that when you put out a record and it's like all short, precise songs. And the second album, we can allow each other. We kind of, you know, we took in, you know, the comments and emails and messages from people, and they're all with us. You can feel they are not shy of experimenting. We kind of posted a few clips already to see like how people would feel like it, and they were all excited. We're like, oh, cool, this is going in this direction now. So that's, I guess, a bonus, like what you guys also do. You know, when you attract kind of musos, but you also attract like people who listen to good songs. You know, and that's very cool. You know.
So here's kind of a offshoot question from that. When you are doing these projects that are primarily studio projects, have you done one that you wish you could have taken to the stage that you haven't yet?
Yes, absolutely. There are a few of those. I wish we could have taken the 11 Minnemann Rudis back to the stage. We did a few CDs and they were great. That was cool. And obviously the one with Randy, but we're planning on doing this. So that might be very able in the future. Good possibility that this is going to happen. And the other thing that we took already to the stage, but only literally for 2 gigs, was a thing that I did with my dear friend Pliny, guitar player. I played on one of his albums or two or something, and then we also did a band together where we brought in songs, and Mohini Day was also part of it. So
Right.
each of us brought in songs, a little bit like the Aristocrats format, and then played, and it was amazing. It felt so good. It was such a great vibe, and we were discussing about doing a whole tour with it. But then you have, you know, us all being in very different places. I mean, with the Aristocrats we are too, but Mohini is in India, and then Pliny is in Australia. I'm over here, and so to bring something like that to the stage, you know, and then on tour, it's, you know, quite an effort. We have also had a fourth member there in the band. Jack Horsam Lowe is his name. He's really good, a really great guitar player. He was doing all the kind of stuff, you know, that kind of couldn't be translated as a trio, right? You know, jack of all trades kind of thing. Great guitar player, you know. So yeah, that would have been a thing that I would have kind of continued to do. But again, you know, so these are things, you know, that always happen, you know, or Taku Yabuki, something like that, you know, would play a few shows with this guy. So on and off, you kind of meet some studio experience where you think like, that could be fun. Alex Lifeson.
Yeah. Wow. Right. Obviously. Right. So being a guy that usually, I mean, we see you obviously in the Aristocrats format more than anybody, and it's a very free form, loose kind of a thing. Yeah. Do you do any gigs, or have you done gigs where technology is really integral to the show? Like we know with our band, we're very Rush influenced, and we're all triggering little bits and things from samples and things like that to fill up the sound and make it sound like an orchestra sometimes, as opposed to a 3-piece. Have you ever done that kind of thing, or and how do you feel about it, or is it too weird?
You mean with the Aristocrats or in any other form?
No, not with the Aristocrats. Just a project that you would have had to do that with, where you're using technology to fill the sound out.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Some with my own stuff, you know, that I did, but also with Steven Wilson a lot. With Steven Wilson, there was like a very memorable night because, man, that is a big band, you know, and we had like, you know, a bunch of players there, and it was great. The shows were actually really fun. But pretty much most of it was just to play to click track, and with a bunch of strings in the back and extra choirs and whatnot to kind of, you know, make it sound fuller and more authentic. And then it was kind of synced to the videos as well, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So, and there was like one song which was really fun to play. It's from an album called Hand Cannot Erase, and it was called Ancestral, and it was like a very long piece, and a 12-13 minute piece or longer, many parts, right? And I was the one always starting the backing, which was synced to the lights and the screens. So I always had to make sure that everybody's ready, and then I would press the button. And I was also the guy who did this thing where I said, like, because we were kind of trying to figure out how to translate those songs, and how to, because it was difficult sometimes when different parts would come up, to run over a stop sign or something. If you kind of, you know, all of a sudden messed up, the whole thing would be out of sync.
Train wreck.
I think if I remember correctly, I was actually the one suggesting once in the rehearsal space when we did this album called The Raven Refused to Sing, or even before, to have literally vocal cues. So that Stephen would say like, okay, midsection, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? So, and we did that. So we had actually on every song vocal cues to go like, here comes the end, one more time around, and finish. So it was like really a safety net. So here was the thing. During that song, once the computer fucked up.
Oh no.
We were just starting the song, and it was a few seconds in or something. All of a sudden the computer stalled, and you know, it was like the screens were off and stuff or whatnot. It was like, it was, or maybe the screens were even on, I don't know, but the computer stalled, and I was like, oh shit. And I remember kind of, but we locked. It sounded good, right?
Okay.
So Stephen and I would look at each other, and we would have this kind of thing, you know. So Stephen would kind of give me this question marks, you know, and I would go like, and we kept playing, and we both agreed to continue. We were like,
yep,
we got this. I was like, let's go ahead. So we went ahead. And the version was so good that was all of a sudden, it was really, we weren't in the cage anymore. We were free.
Oh, wow.
And so we played that song, and then we finished it. We were like, holy shit, we just made it. And it was really cool. And the band and also the crew, both said, like, after that one, is like, that was one of the best versions of Ancestral that was ever played, because it was like, all of a sudden, fuck it, let's go.
So are you saying the tracks got canceled, or you
everything? The tracks were not in there. It was just bare bones, just the band. We tried to compensate stuff.
Whose decision was that? Your call to hit the space bar, or?
Yeah, it was me then. Well, I saw that the computer fucked off, so it was already in the thing.
And so he was not doing anything
I
anyway.
had to make the call. I had to go like, okay, no, there was something still running with the lights, but I did say, okay, and I stopped the computer and everything, the rest of it, so that it doesn't start.
Yes, exactly.
Like, done.
That's a hard call to make, though.
It's a hard call to make. It is. And Steve and I looked at each other and going like, okay, what are we gonna do? And we both heard that it sounded good. We were like, and I was like, let's go ahead,
Okay, yeah.
And we started to have so much fun, everyone.
Nice.
It went the opposite direction sometimes too with Steve. Yeah. We had a few times where some light cue didn't kind of, connect or something. And then we would just right in the beginning stop and then all laugh about it, go like, hey, we try this again. It was like a thing. Then
was it a vibration hard disk thing, or was it like, because
I don't know.
Like
I didn't know what it was, but
yeah.
Sometimes it is a vibration hard disk thing, but sometimes it's just like Ghost in the Machine, isn't it?
Yeah, sure.
This is a drummer who's dealt with this that's looking at you.
I'm
right
like,
now.
I want to talk about this. Yeah, because there's two looks I get where everybody looks at me like, and I'll kill it. And there's also the look where Trav gets me in the corner of his eye and he's like, I got this. You fucking find it. So I messed up and he knows where the track is and so I know that look too. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna follow him.
Oh man, that's good. That's good to know, because it's a very good technical question, isn't it? I mean, the one thing when you do, for example, clinics, this is where kind of stuff like that happens sometimes. And I tell you what, and this is where the stupidest mistakes happen. And this is like I've seen sometimes drummers, and I don't want to name anyone, and I don't know right now anyone even, but I've seen it from drummers, who did it, who come with a fucking CD player on stage, right?
Yes, oh yeah.
To a CD, and guess what? The CD oh, really? You didn't know that before. And then the second thing is like some people kind of, show up with their, like a certain machine that has like the click track on the other thing. They have to split it then and send it out, and it didn't work and all this kind of stuff. So what I always do, I literally go like, okay, here's my phone. I have the file on here. It completely works. It's a solid state. I turn the rest off. Do you have a click track? No, because I have a shaker that kind of counts it in, and then I have the shaker going through. And here is a stereo output. Voila. And they go like, oh, wow, that's it. And it's already mixed and mastered. Done.
Yep.
There's nothing that can go wrong, really.
Yeah.
I'm sorry for dragging us down that road, but I had to know.
As soon as Roland started making those samplers, that Dale's life got so much more stable.
Yeah. I used to use the hard disk recorders, but they had moving parts in them, and they'd vibrate one every like 10 gigs, and then like once a month.
Time ago, I mean, we were doing sampling and backing tracks back when we were using the Emu, and it had
we had an Akai SO1, which had 10 seconds of sample on the entire device.
That was the upgrade.
Took a floppy disk.
Floppy disk, yeah.
Oh my god, yeah, those are recipes for disaster sometimes.
Yeah.
And everybody in the band had one, so she's got the verse, he's got the chorus.
I would figure this, yeah. So when the DX came around, it was like, oh my god, it's the most amazing thing. Yeah,
that is cool. That is good to know. Yeah, that's actually something I would love to pick your brains on there. But now we're already deep into that topic. That's great.
Yeah, we've troubleshot everything in the worst case scenarios you can imagine for decades. So we're pretty on top of that stuff now.
Yeah.
So Marco, you have spent more airtime with us than any other artist on any of these guest spots.
I'm sorry.
Just so you know,
everyone go to bed. My word.
But I wanted to end on. I had one more. Who's the man from a fan? And
poetry.
I also want to say Marco's website is in the link of the description of this feed. So if anyone wants to check out all his projects and what he's doing and what he's not doing right now, but
he's doing a lot more.
That's the problem. So
right. And all the support Travis Larson Band links are in the feed as well, or in the description of the feed. And before we finish here, I'm going to put a link to my live show this coming Wednesday, which is going to stream live on Facebook Live and YouTube Live. So check that out. And I've got some special guests this week which I've never done before. So that'll be an interesting. I have bona fide rock star and a bona fide Grammy winner playing a song with me, so that'll be fun. But Marco, who's the man?
Not you and me, Dale. I guess it's not you and me.
You guys don't add to the ticket price. You guys could each do your own feeds, and then we could split it 3 ways. We'll have a TLB, like we'll have a Dale drum centric TLB set on his page, and then a bass centric set on Jen's page, and we'll just all 3 rotate them.
Oh yeah, awesome.
Everybody's requesting those kind of things, honestly. Vincent wants to know, and this goes to Dale and Marco, I suppose. Ginger Baker or Bonham?
I mean, I know already what to say, obviously, but I don't want to insult anyone else. Should I just say John Bonham?
Yes, you should.
Yeah.
I will say the same thing. However, everybody should watch the Ginger Baker documentary.
I know, that's why I was kind of laughing, because it was so funny, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry.
No disrespect to Ginger Baker there or something. But I was actually more laughing because I thought exactly about what you just said. The documentary where he hit the guy actually with the cane.
Right.
It's so great. I always used to wonder, is he crazy or is he a genius or is he, and it's everything. He's all those things.
No, okay. To kind of, smoothen it a little out, I didn't want to kind of ridicule him or something.
Right.
They're both great. And I just grew up with Led Zeppelin so much. I love Led Zeppelin so much that I have to kind of pick John Bonham.
Right.
Me too.
Sure. Yeah. Well, our generation.
We're all on that page.
Yeah, we're all the generation one after Cream. Like Cream was like Cream was our parents, right?
Yeah.
Wait a minute. Ew.
Yeah.
Somehow that sounded weird.
Leave it to the girl to say something dirty.
Dang, that sounded weird.
So, thank you, Marco. I really appreciate you hanging out.
Thank you.
Everybody check out Marco Minnemann. Check out all the Aristocrat stuff. If you want to hang out right after this for a minute, what we're going to do is pull out of the feed and we'll come back and say bye. So
hang out for a second, Marco.
But if
I would like to say,
go ahead, Dale.
Sorry, without being all mushy, I would like to say I've always felt this way, Marco. It's inspiring that all the time I spent on the road with you and been around you, you're always inspired by stuff. And I'm not trying to be clever by that. It's like you take responsibility for being inspired, and half the time I'll be burnt out, and you're just like, you'll get away from a show and you're excited about what you're listening to next, and you're excited about what you're playing next. And
you gotta have fun in life. You gotta have fun in life, right? You
should have heard the music in the van on the last tour. Oh my gosh.
That was
Marco was a madman. It was amazing. It was so cool.
That's so cool. One thing, by the way, I like to point out, which is kind of strange, but I wanted to kind of, say recently, when you have the discussion vinyl, and then, digital kind of stuff and all this kind of things, this was like one of those things. I can actually use this also to say like a thing, because we're doing this thing with Randy, together. And I need to say this to the people. We literally have 3 or 2 vinyls left.
Oh, boy.
Oh, wow.
And then they're sold out. So if anyone wants to pick up vinyl, now is the time. Otherwise, they're going to be sold out. The whole run from the first album. But
wow.
Also, just saying. But also, I really want to kind of, say props to you guys. That it was so much fun always touring with you guys. And I hope, obviously, we do this many more times. And we should do jams and more drinking as well. And thank you so much for having this super nice chat and those really cool questions. And we should, I'll drive up. I'm going to threaten that now, and I will do this. I know you guys invited me over already, but I will actually do this.
It's great to hang. And if you have any amplified instruments in your room there, otherwise, enjoy the madness.
I don't actually have, this is not amplified.
Oh, we can hear it.
But it's
Go ahead, Dale.
Whatever you play.
Go ahead, Dale.
Thanks, everybody.